It's Saturday, August 9th, 2025. Good evening and welcome to the daily happenings inside our federal machine. This is Spathon, and it's time to plunge into the swamp to see what happened today. The Trump administration froze hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding to UCLA due to their unwillingness to combat anti-Semitism on campus in recent years. The Trump administration seeks a massive settlement, some of which will go to the victims of anti-Semitism. JD Vance is over in Europe meeting with EU nations and Ukrainians, discussing ways to reach a resolution in the conflict with Russia. President Trump, he announced today that Tammy Bruce, the spokeswoman for the State Department, she just got a big promotion. And President Trump announced a meeting with President Putin next Friday, August 15th, in Alaska to discuss ways to bring the Russia-Ukraine conflict to an end. The president also announced that a press conference will be held on Monday to discuss the violent crime in Washington, D.C., and what the federal government will be doing to help crack down on the lawlessness. Republican Representative Byron Donalds of Naples, Florida, reintroduced the D.C. Crimes Act. And also, NASA's Crew 10, they splashed down in the Pacific Ocean today off the coast of California. Successful mission! And lots more to dig through, so we're going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and I might just read your comment on the next episode if you drop one. So we're just going to go ahead and get started right away here. So the first thing we're going to start with is from Owen Gregorian. The Trump administration is seeking $1 billion in a settlement with UCLA. Let's see, Brown University and Columbia University, there are so far the only schools that have reached settlements with the Trump administration in order to restore their federal funding. Brown agreed to pay $200 million to end their case. So the Trump administration is reportedly seeking a billion settlement with the University of California, UCLA, in order to conclude its case against the school regarding anti-Semitism and its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. So the potential settlement comes after the administration paused more than $550 million in federal funding to UCLA over its response to anti-Semitic protests and incidents on its campus. The school has promised to engage in new negotiations with the administration to restore the funding. A White House official told The Hill that the administration is seeking the highest payout from UCLA and that the $1 billion would be paid in installments along with a $172 million fund for those impacted by civil rights violations. The school, if it agrees to the settlement, would also install a resolution monitor to ensure the agreement is met, which is a good idea because they'll probably find some sort of a way to weasel out of it. The California University would also be required to hand over data on admissions and stop awarding scholarships based on race. I mean, that should just go without saying. This is insane. Adjust its protest policies, create guidelines excluding transgender women from female sports or campus housing, and halt gender-affirming care at the medical school. The move comes after Brown University and Columbia reached settlements with the Trump administration in order to restore their federal funding, and Brown agreed to pay $200 million to end their case. UCLA has already agreed to settle a separate anti-Semitism lawsuit brought by students and a professor for $6.13 million. I know if they agree to a settlement, it doesn't necessarily admit guilt, but in the court of public opinion, it totally does. Because why else would you be settling? Why not just take it straight to trial if you're not guilty of doing anything? So I'm not going to go through the article because it basically just says everything that I just read. So, but I will leave this article here because I'm going to link it in the description as soon as the video's over, as I link everything that I click on, every article that I pull up and I read, because usually there's just so much to go through. I don't have time to go through and read every word of every article, so I'll link them all below for you. So that is that. So we'll see what happens there, man. $1 billion. That's a lot of money, man. So if each student, let's say that it costs $100,000 in tuition for each student to get a bachelor's degree in UCLA. I'm sure it's more expensive than that, but I'm just giving out a round number. So in that instance, if it costs $100,000 per student to attend UCLA for 4 years and get a bachelor's degree, that $1 billion will be equivalent to 10,000 students going to that university for their bachelor's degree. That's how much money they're going to have to pay out in this settlement if it goes that far. So I hope it does. I mean, they're clearly guilty, just like all these other universities. Brown and Columbia, they're not the only ones either. There was a whole bunch of other ones that were doing these ridiculous protests, and the universities, not only did they do nothing to stop it, I would say a lot of those university professors were the ones that were inciting all of these protests in the first place. Because at the end of the day, these students, when they graduate high school, they don't graduate high school politically charged and completely politicizing everything that they see around them. No, they learn all this shit when they go to college, which is really ironic because they're supposed to go there to get their learn on so they can develop some skills and hopefully realize their talents so that when they get out into the workforce, they can find a way to make a lot of money. But instead, they're just getting indoctrinated and brainwashed. So, whatever. Anyway, if you have any comment on that, drop it below. So the next one we're going to read is from John Solomon. The Texas court grants restraining order blocking Beto O'Rourke, or Beta, from fundraising and lawsuit filed by Paxton. So this just came out, I believe, did it come out just yesterday? I think it came out yesterday evening. We'll see. I think it did, to be honest with you. So a Texas district court, this, by the way, is from justthenews.com. They granted a request for a temporary restraining order against former U.S. Representative Beto O'Rourke, a Democrat from El Paso, and his political action group, Powered by People. So both have reportedly raised money to fund dozens of House Democrats leaving Texas, and more than 50 have left in protest to prevent the Texas House from conducting official business, including voting for a congressional redistricting bill that they oppose. On Thursday, Attorney General Ken Paxton launched an investigation into Powered by the People and Texas Majority PAC, the Center Square reported. So on Friday afternoon, Paxton sued O'Rourke and Powered by the People in district court on Tarrant County. Roughly 3 hours later, the court granted Paxton's request for an emergency temporary restraining order to block them from continuing to raise or distribute money for the absconding Democrats. Man, that's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. I wonder how much money that they had raised at that point. And do you think that they're going to abide by this restraining order? Do you think they're still going to pass that money along so they can continue doing whatever the hell it is they're doing? Which, by the way, those Democrats, they're holding themselves up in Illinois and New York and Massachusetts. That's last I heard. The Massachusetts thing, they might have moved on because I think they were going there to attend some Democrat conference or some bullshit like that. But anyway, so the 20-page lawsuit states that Robert Francis O'Rourke and his political influence operation, Powered by People, are traveling the state misleadingly, raising political funds to pay for the personal expenses of Texas Democrats who have abandoned their offices and fled the state in the middle of a special legislative session. Texas law prohibits, as a matter of public confidence and trust, personal fundraising for state officials. So there you have it. There's plenty more to read through. It is a hell of an article. There's quite a bit more to get through, but that is the gist of it. That's where I'm going to have to leave it, and we'll move on to the next one right away here from August the 8th. It is from yesterday. I'll actually give you the time. It was at 3:25 p.m. yesterday when this was posted. So this is from the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton. Breaking, I filed a historic lawsuit against Democrat runaways in the Supreme Court of Texas to secure an order declaring their seats vacant. These cowards deliberately sabotage the constitutional process. Their out-of-state rebellion cannot go unchecked, and the business of Texas must go on. So I know it's small. It sucks. I can't make it any larger. You know what? I'll do the best I possibly can. Let me see if I can try to save this. And no, it didn't. It made me save as a web page. Here, actually, can I copy it? Well, hell, it won't even let me copy it. All right. I guess I'm stuck with the way it is. So anyway, from Ken Paxton, Attorney General Ken Paxton files historic lawsuit against, oh, come on, get out of here, against Democrat runaways in the Supreme Court of Texas to secure order declaring their seats vacant. In Austin, Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a lawsuit in the Supreme Court of Texas to formally pursue judicial declarations that 13 Texas House seats have been vacated due to continued unlawful absences by Democratic legislators who failed to meet the return deadline set by Speaker Dustin Burrows. Quote, the rogue Democrat legislators who fled the state have abandoned their duties, leaving their seats vacant, end quote, said Attorney General Paxton. Quote, these cowards deliberately sabotaged the constitutional process and violated the oath they swore to uphold. Their out-of-state rebellion cannot go unchecked, and the business of Texas must go on. I have asked the Texas Supreme Court to declare what has been clear from the beginning, that the runaway members have officially vacated their offices in the Texas House, end quote. House Democrats remain willfully absent from the state of Texas, choosing instead to engage in politically motivated grandstanding from out-of-state locations. Their conduct represents a flagrant abandonment of office and a betrayal of the voters who entrusted them with the duty to represent Texans in the legislative chamber. This initial lawsuit concentrates on 13 Democrat members who made incriminating public statements regarding their refusal to return, essentially confirming in their own words the very grounds for this legal action. Yeah, dude, there was this I don't remember who she was. I believe they were in Massachusetts when she was on this podium saying that I'm a congresswoman and I'm standing up for these Democrats and what Texas is doing. They're gerrymandering and this is terrible. It's bad for the people. And she said, I'm standing alongside the Texas Democrats who had to flee their state because of what the Republicans have been doing. And these Democrats from Texas were standing right behind them, and they both started yelling at her like, no, we didn't flee. No, we didn't flee. We didn't flee. And then the video ended, at least the video clip that I saw, but they were trying to correct her from behind the podium saying like, no, you can't say that. You can't say we fled because that would be illegal. They're fucking idiots. They're absolute idiots. All right, so anyway, Texas law provides the Attorney General with explicit authority to represent the state in quo warranto actions and appear before the Texas Supreme Court in matters where the state has direct interest. The petition states, quote, the Texas Constitution, statutes, and rules provide a broad range of tools for members of a legislative minority to be heard, but those tools do not include concerted effort by members of the minority to disrupt the functioning of the legislature by abdicating their duties, including spurning the constitutional authority of the remaining members to compel their attendance. When members of the legislature disregard arrest warrants, refuse to perform their duties, and announce that they intend to prevent the legislature from exercising its constitutional responsibilities, they have, through words and conduct, demonstrated an intent to relinquish and abandon their offices, end quote. The addition to filing this petition, Attorney General Paxton and Speaker Dustin Burrows moved to enforce arrest warrants in other states. Attorney General Paxton also launched an investigation into Powered by People and Texas Majority PAC for potentially operating an illegal financial influence scheme to bribe Democrats into breaking quorum. To read the petition, click here, which I can't because it's an image. But that's okay. I know that was a bit long-winded, but this is for the press. It's a press release. It's regarding this lawsuit that's being filed. We'll see what happens. It's being filed with the Supreme Court. 13 Texas Democrats could be losing their seats permanently, which means that the governor is going to hold elections for those 13 seats to have them fully replaced. These people are insane for just up and leaving like this. They're retarded, for lack of a better word. They're idiots. They're not going to win. It's incredibly stupid what they're doing. But whatever. To each his own, I guess. You know, when all else fails, I guess, well, at least with Democrats, I mean, not across the board, but at least with Democrats, when all else fails, double down. And then if it fails again, double down again and again and again and again. This I thought was kind of hilarious. The Independent reported, this came out about 4 hours ago, the owner of a MAGA-themed Trump burger chain was arrested by ICE in Texas. I mean, it sounds to me like this dude is a grifter, wolf in sheep's clothing. But maybe not. Maybe he's truly a Trump supporter. I know a lot of immigrants are, especially the legal ones. They tend to be pretty staunch Trump supporters. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. So anyway, check please. Owner of Trump Burger MAGA joints is nabbed by ICE and called illegal alien facing deportation. And I'm not sure if this means that the reporter's from Ohio. I'm assuming that to be the case. Yeah, or maybe the chain is in Ohio. I guess we'll find. No. It's in Texas. It's in Texas. The guy who wrote the articles in Ohio. For some reason, they felt that was important that we know that. So we'll check this out briefly. So not even, I mean, I'm going to try to spare you some of the random nonsense that modern articles tend to produce these days. Kind of getting a little bit off topic. Like, not even branding a burger with the name Trump could protect a Texas restaurant chain owner. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, he overstayed his visa. ICE is doing their mass deportations, of course. His name is Roland Merez Biani. He's restaurateur. He owns the chain Trump Burger. Okay. Anyway, so he allegedly overstayed his visa after being arrested by ICE. He's 28 years old, from Lebanon. He arrived in 2019 and he was supposed to leave by February 12th of 2024, which he obviously did not do. So, and then he was arrested on May 16th. So this is not a new article. I don't know why they're just now coming out with this. This is way back on May 16th. But okay. All right. So basically the gist of it. I mean, not a whole lot more to go with. Doesn't have any immigration benefits that prevented his arrest or removal from the U.S. Yada, yada. Trump burger. I don't know if that means that the restaurants are going to close down. I would assume maybe not. My question is wouldn't they have caught on to this when he applied to open a restaurant? I mean, in the state of Texas, don't you have to supply some sort of paperwork in order to open up a commercial establishment? You think that they would have done some background checks like that. Does E-Verify, does that apply to anybody who's trying to open and start a business anywhere in the country? Or does this just have to do with just big corporate everyday employees? Because I thought maybe I was daydreaming this. Maybe I just dreamt it up randomly like 10, 15 years ago. But didn't E-Verify, wasn't that in reality at some point or another? I thought E-Verify was something that they were supposed to use to weed out people who were supposed to be here and not supposed to be here. I don't know, man. I read stuff every day on social media, on X especially. I read statements, posts from politicians every day. I haven't heard one single word about E-Verify from anybody. Nobody. Not Republicans, nobody. So I just think it's just kind of interesting. Maybe I did dream it up. Maybe it doesn't exist. I have a feeling it does, though, but nobody's talking about it. All right, so let's go on to Haley Grace Gomez. So a fun fact about Gavin Newsom's, quote, trust, end quote, in California voters. In 2019, he froze executions after voters said no in 2012 and also in 2016. Also in 2020, he pushed universal mail-in ballots and rewrote in-person voting. So judges later ruled that it was an overreach. And that's just two examples. So anyway, she's responding to what Governor Gavin Newsom himself said just a day ago, 23 hours ago. What separates us from these Republican states is that California, we trust our voters. We don't play political games. That's why we're exploring a ballot measure to let voters temporarily adjust our congressional map if other states decide to manipulate theirs. Okay. So anyway, let's go ahead and check this out here. Are we good on the... Oh, no, it's way too quiet. Let me make this a little bit louder for y'all. Let's go. Let's see what this
We'll pick up 5
said.
seats with the consent of the people. And that's the difference between the approach we're taking and the approach they're taking. We're doing it on a temporary basis. We're doing it in a fully transparent way. And we're doing it by asking the people of the state of California for their consent and support. Mark that stark contrast to what's happening in Texas and other states. We have till August 22nd. With the leadership behind me, they will get this on the ballot. We're calling for a special election. We will raise an unprecedented amount of attention, and we will garner an unprecedented amount of support because people understand what's at stake.
You know why he moves his hands around so much? So you don't pay attention to what his mouth is doing. So you don't pay attention to his lips. You just watch his hands wave around like, ooh, look at my hands. Look at my smoke and mirror hands. Isn't it so cool what I'm doing with my hands? He's like a fucking magician. Fucking politicians, man. Good grief. Not all of them are bad. Just the left coast ones seem to be. Not just. Definitely not just. There's a lot more bad ones than just the left coast ones. All right. So, oh yeah, here, let me check a couple of these comments. I was looking at a couple of them earlier and they were getting a little ruthless toward him. So, let's see. You don't like it. You are going to do it too. Fucking hypocrite. Gavin Newsom doesn't play politics. Ha! He is just all worried about Texas politics while his state literally burns his state. Let's see. Grok Imagine. Playing the violin, of course. So you trust your voters, eh? They voted to keep the death penalty, which you put a stay to. Why didn't you listen to them, clown world? If you trust your voters, then why are Democrats melting face over gerrymandering? Good point. Let's see. Oh, here. Oh, wow. That's a long one. Okay. California voters. I know it's a long shot, but I've seen 50-to-1 horses come in before. He wants to redraw your state, and he needs your vote to do it. Remember what you're living with in California. High taxes, crushing regulations. You can't build a house without a decade's worth of permits. can't afford gas, power, or even a plastic bag without paying extra. Plus, they're a sanctuary state. There's, I would say, probably well over 1 million illegal immigrants that are living in California, which tends to be a burden on the electrical grid, on the water system, just your utilities in general. Not to mention the cost of your food going up because there's only so much food. We don't have an infinite amount of food. So it's simple supply and demand. When you add 1 million people to your population in a very short amount of time, your food tends to go up a little bit. Same with your rent. Same with everything else. Everything else. So anyway, let's see. This is one of the richest, most naturally beautiful states in the country. Yeah, without a doubt. California is very beautiful. And Gavin turned it into a toilet. Yeah, he has. In many ways. Also, including the fact that they don't do any controlled burnings anymore. They just let all that kindling build up year after year, all those pine needles year after year until there's just this, 4 foot thick, just ground covering of just dead brush scattering all across these forests. And when you get one little lightning strike, or you get one little leftist who wants to be an asshole and set some on fire, or you just get one camper or one idiot who throws a cigarette out the window, the whole fucking state burns down. But they don't do controlled burnings because they just don't want to put the smoke into the air because, climate change, dude. It's fucking climate change. They're idiots, man. They screwed everything up, man. For fuck's sakes, they didn't even have water when the Pacific Palisades burned down. I mean, that's how retarded their politicians are. And they got nothing to say about it. Like, well, it wasn't my fault. It was the city water fire hydrant chief's fault. Yeah, we'll throw her under the bus. And then when they go to talk to her, she probably said, no comment. I don't know what you're talking about. My prefrontal cortex hadn't developed all the way. I'm like 24 years old, so that means I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I can avoid accountability by saying my prefrontal cortex hasn't developed all the way. My septum piercing says so. See, look at my tattoo. It says it right there. All right, anyway. Treason, fraud, espionage, terrorism. Wait a minute. It's good to be the king. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, Californians don't trust our elections. That somehow takes weeks to tabulate. Yeah, really. Why does it take so long? I mean, you're counting fucking votes, dude. They've been doing this shit for hundreds of years. Why does it take so long to count simple votes? Because they want to convolute the system and game it. All right. Am I done with this? You don't speak Spanish. You don't even understand your voters, much less trust them. You're the most untrustworthy man in California. Yeah. P.S. Stay the fuck out of my state's politics. Texas will never be like California. Well, I know they're sure as hell trying to make it into California. And it looked like they were well on their way during the whole COVID season, man. That was getting a little scary. I mean, I don't live in Texas. I live in Florida. But, I was paying attention back then. I saw what they were up to. You think the world is blind, idiot? Even the liberals are leaving your state in droves, dumbass. Yeah, that's kind of off-putting. That's a little nerve-wracking, if you ask me. I think the last thing that we need is for California to fully implode and send out an explosion of progressives and Democrats and leftists to just fall all over the country wherever they land. Because they're not going to leave their politics in the state that they destroyed. No, they're going to take it with them like freaking cancer tumors, man. It ain't good. It's not a good thing. I mean, they are brain dead after all. So you're going to leave the state that was destroyed because of politics, and you're going to vote for the exact same policies that you fled from. Yeah, okay. All right, genius. All right, let's go to the next one here from Fox News. Democratic strategist says party lacks moral authority on Texas redistricting fight. Let's check this out. See what this is all about. So Julian Epstein says blue states gerrymandered GOP out of existence amid redistricting battle. So Democrats are fighting tooth and nail to stop Texas lawmakers' plan to redraw the state's congressional map, but critics, including one prominent member of their own party, says they don't exactly hold the moral high ground. No, they don't. Democrat legislators, why do I get that mixed up? I don't know. Whatever. I guess I'm having a dyslexic day. That doesn't make sense. All right, so they have fled the state to avoid votes on redistricting, which is expected to add more Republican seats to Congress for the Lone Star State. They're getting the rock star treatment as they visit blue states where several governors have vowed to gerrymander Republicans out of their own congressional delegations in retaliation for the Texas effort. I did read something. I wish I had caught it. I read something earlier today where somebody said that that California has only 9 Republican seats or 9 Republican districts, whichever the way they worded it, even though 40% of the population in California votes Republican. But they only have 9 seats out of what, 50 or 56 or some shit? They have a really high number of seats in California, but a very, very small number of them are actually Republicans, despite the fact that, yeah, like I said, 40% of California votes Republican. In fact, person for person, there's more Republican voters in California than any other state in the country, which I know might blow some minds, but don't forget, California is also the most populated state. All right, so let's see. Did we get through that section there? I think we did. So, however, Democratic strategist Julian Epstein told Fox News Live on Saturday that his party is not immune from criticism, as many blue states have already gerrymandered in a way that limits Republican congressional representation. Quote, "No, I think they don't have the moral authority, and there's a lot of pearl clutching going on," he said. Several blue states, including Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Mexico, have no Republicans in their House delegations, and many feature oddly drawn districts seemingly crafted to limit GOP representation. Yeah, and places like New Mexico, there's a lot of rural areas out there, a lot of countryside, and countrysides tend to vote red. But for some reason, there's not a single Republican in New Mexico. That kind of blew my mind. I mean, damn near the entire state is rural, except for like, what, 2 cities, maybe 3? So anyway, the Democrats don't have clean hands here. You look at states like Massachusetts, New Jersey, Illinois, California, and Democrats have effectively gerrymandered Republicans out of existence. Yeah, they have. They absolutely have. And maybe that's why they don't stand a slim chance in hell of flipping red. Unless a large swath of the public decides to start voting red. Voting for the party of common sense and logic, not the party of hopes and feelings. Anyway, Epstein cautioned that the nationwide redistricting battle could create a race to the bottom, and that leaving Republicans and Democrats in states led by the opposite parties could lead to people fleeing or feeling left out of the democratic process. Epstein cited New Jersey, in which Trump garnered 46% of the vote in 2024. Damn. But Republicans only have 3 out of the 12 congressional seats. Now, isn't that weird? That is so weird. Only 25% of the seats in New Jersey are red. But almost 50% of the fucking state voted for Trump. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that they're registered Republicans. Doesn't mean that they historically vote Republican. I'm sure there's a lot of people that voted for Trump in 2024 that didn't vote red before. Probably. Maybe not as many as in 2016 or maybe even 2020. But still. I mean, look, I'm not a Republican. I've never been a Republican. When I turned 18, I wrote Democrat on the voter ID, even though I was politically retarded back then, pretty much all the way up to like I was in like 2016 probably, and that's when I started paying attention to politics. And yeah, but to this day, I'm a no party affiliate. I don't go for either party because they both have their own problems, and I prefer watching from the sidelines, and I vote for whoever I want to vote for. Which, to be honest, over the last 10 years, it's been exclusively red, Republican. I just wish we had some better Republicans in office with way bigger balls than they do. Some don't have any balls at all. All right, so I'll leave it there. Again, it's going to be linked in the description. Matter of fact, let me go up here real quick. No, I don't think that. Yeah. Never mind. Yeah, there's a video here that details this article, by the way, if you want to jump over there and check that out. I would play it. It's 6 minutes, 29 seconds. It's a bit long with all I have to get through. I've got like 30 different posts to go through of important things that happened throughout the day. Some of these you probably didn't see on mainstream media, but everything that I chose on here, it's all important stuff. It's important stuff. You got to hear this shit. It's crazy. Not all of it's crazy. A lot of it's good news. There's not just drama. There's also some good stuff. You know, we'll get to it. I have one that's very lighthearted, and it'll probably make you smile. All right, so let's do this one from Newsmax. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Holy shit, not that big. Oh, that's what she said. Uh-oh. Where did it go? Oh, no. Spoilers. What the hell? Where did they go? Oh, man. What the hell did I do? I just screwed up everything. Let's try this again. Oh, I think I know what I did. Okay, that's right. I didn't refresh earlier. No problem. All right. We're back, baby. All right. So this is from Senator John. This is from Janitor John Hickenlooper. Let's see. So Senator Hick, 1 hour ago, our future requires more energy, not less. Why in the world would Republicans vote to surrender our progress just to give tax breaks to the wealthy few? That doesn't make any sense at all. That was a very stupid statement. And of course, he quotes Axios. I'm not going to necessarily disagree with what this map is saying, that the change in average residential electricity prices from May of 24 to May of 25, yeah, I'm sure it has gone up for everybody. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And I believe what was being said, here, I'll bring up the article. They were blaming, I think, AI. They were blaming those data centers coming online, which they claimed to be a large... Oh, they fucking paywalled me, didn't they? Fucking Axios, man. It's so annoying. So annoying when you get paywalled. I'm not giving them money. Are you fucking crazy? Here, let me try this. Now, this has worked before. I don't know if it's going to work this time, but I'm going to try it in the incognito tab and see if maybe it'll let me in. Probably not. Oh, damn it. No, look, I know I could subscribe for free. I know, but I'm not going to do that. Because it's not very often I come across Axios. Look, if I come across them more often in the future, a couple more times, then fine. Whatever. Maybe I will. But here in Florida, it's gone up 10%. That's my state. California, 1.9%. Hey, at least it didn't move much in California. Dude, look at Maine. 6%. That's how much electricity's gone up. What was another one? One of these New England states, it might have been Connecticut. I was listening to somebody somewhere, I think on a podcast, they were talking about one of these New England states, like their electricity went up like 30%, and they lived in a somewhat rural area, and their policy in their state, they have to pay like it's essentially like a communism fee. It's a percentage fee that everybody in the state has to pay, and the money that they collect from that percentage goes to low-income people who can't afford electricity. So essentially, like, everybody else has to chip in to pay for people who they claim that they don't have enough money to pay for electricity. I want to say it was either, it might have been Vermont. It might have been Vermont. That's what comes to mind. But anyway, so I guess I'll just go into a couple of the comments and then we'll check it out. But yeah, electricity costs are rising nationwide and could get even higher for some amid the explosion in data centers powering AI and more. So, of course, the Democrats, they're all mad because they think because Trump is rolling back renewable energy, that's going to destroy our electrical infrastructure. And the Democrats had the perfect idea, wind and solar. That's going to power all these AI infrastructures and these data centers and the entire country of 330 plus million people or 340 million people. Yeah, wind and solar and the coal power plant. Oh, yeah, that's right. They were trying to shut all those down. Well, even the nuclear. Oh, yeah, that's right. They're trying to shut them down, too. Absolutely fucking insanity. Just ridiculous as hell. Meanwhile, China, they're building over 30 large coal power plants as we speak, or as I speak right now, under construction, in addition to probably the hundreds of coal power plants they already have. So they know what they're doing. And look, this AI race that we're engaged with against China, it's not just a race for AI. It's a race for more electricity. That's what we're really in a race for, because if you don't have the electricity to power the AI infrastructure, you don't have an AI infrastructure. And Democrats want us to get into the whole electric vehicle thing. They want us all to be driving EVs. And if every American had an electric vehicle on the road, all 280 million vehicles that are on the road today, if you overnight made them all into EVs, we would need the equivalent of 1,200 nuclear power plants across the country to pay or to charge all of those electric vehicles, in addition to our energy needs currently. It's not possible. Do you know how many nuclear power plants we have across the country right now in operation? Only 54. That's it. Just 54. So it's not feasible. So electric vehicles, the AI infrastructure, we've got Apple investing $600 billion into our company, and they want to build all of these AI centers, chip manufacturing. Essentially, they want to build stuff that's going to be extremely heavily reliant on energy, electricity. So fortunately, the Trump administration, they lifted a lot of red tape when it comes to nuclear production or nuclear power. And the only unfortunate thing is that nuclear takes a few years to bring it online. You can't build one of them overnight. But they are opening up a lot of coal mines, and they're ramping up the production. So we'll see if we can keep up with it. But if we can't, then your electricity costs are about to go way up. So that's why I thought there was a little bit of validity to this map. And I think they're right. I think once these data centers keep coming online, unfortunately, I think our electricity may go up. And it's not because we're putting a stop to wind and solar. If anything, the wind and solar that's already in place is probably just going to continue to be in place. Why would the Trump administration tear them all down if they're already functioning? They're already in place. They're installed. They're collecting electricity. Why would they do that? They're not doing that. They're just not going to build additional ones because it's extremely expensive. You're getting almost no return on investment because the federal government overpays like crazy for everything. So, and plus wind has it's almost a complete pointless return on investment across the board. Now, solar's got a good ROI, but it's a short-term good ROI. If you build nuclear power, it might have a smaller ROI in the first few years, but in the long run, you've got a way bigger return on investment with nuclear than you do with solar. Plus, who's building most of these solar components? I know we assemble a lot of them in the United States because I think there's a federal law that the government has to buy made in USA solar panels and windmills. But yeah, we might be assembling them in the US, but are we really building the most fundamental components inside the US? Are we building all the fan blades and the microelectronics and all that? No, probably not. All that shit's probably made in China. Come on. They're taking advantage of loopholes somewhere. That's what they're good at doing. Those lawmakers, they know how to write laws with loopholes in mind. So I don't know if there's going to be anything in here. Oh yeah, I actually left a comment. Let's see. Nuclear produces far more electricity and has a bigger return on investment. They don't produce lime green toxic waste. All the nuclear waste on Earth can fit inside a football field 9 feet deep. President Trump finally reopened the nuclear door. Renewables are stupid. China has over 30 large-scale coal power plants under construction, while we have fucking windmills and solar panels dependent on the weather. Like I said, stupid. And then there's Doge AI. Doge AI, they reply, or this bot, this auto account, it replies to pretty much every politician that posts anything. Every single post that I look at from a politician, there's always Doge AI trying to provide some context, whether if it's in agreement or disagreement. I'm going to go off on a limb and say it's probably disagreeing. But let's see, Paying the Fair Share Act of 2025 imposes a 30% tax on incomes over $1 million, while gutting $450 billion in clean energy investments. I think that's a wonderful idea. They should take that $450 billion and build nuclear. If each nuclear plant costs $5 billion, build them all. See how many we can get. What is that? 20, 40, 60, 80? Was that like 90? Let's take that $450 billion and build 90 nuclear power plants. Or hydroelectric. I'm all about hydroelectric plants. I don't know if it's got more output than nuclear, but it's probably better for the environment, except having to dam up a reservoir. I mean, that's going to probably ruin a local ecosystem. So, but anyway, so let's see. Strips deductions for solar wind projects, mid-construction, stranding capital and spiking electricity costs. Maybe. Its claim about Republicans surrendering progress ignores the bill's actual mechanics. It doesn't just cut taxes for the wealthy. It actively sabotages energy infrastructure. The real scandal is Biden's $1 trillion green slush fund created this dependency. Yeah. And again, you don't want to build an entire electrical infrastructure that's 100% dependent on the weather. If the wind isn't moving, you're not getting electricity. If the sun's not shining, you're not getting electricity. And I don't want to hear the whole like, well, it's usually doing one or the other. Yeah, well, there's plenty of days where the wind's not moving and it ain't sunny either. So, and half the time, the sun's not even in the fucking sky. So that's even more retarded. I mean, hell, at least sometimes the wind blows at night. I don't think the sun can shine at night, but, that's just me. Anyway, so all for saving the whales from windmills. Got him. Clean energy, total BS. Verify with anyone with 5 minutes to spare. Absolutely. I mean, I think I did a fairly decent job. This is a fucking lie! Help keep Twitter a place for reliable info. Find out more before sharing. All right, let's just move on to the next one. I got plenty more to get into. So this one, Rapid Response 47, President of Peace, 5 hours ago. These are all the countries that President Trump brokered a peace deal with. So we got Azerbaijan and Armenia. That was just yesterday, day before yesterday, this week. Cambodia and Thailand, Israel and Iran, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, India and Pakistan, Egypt and Ethiopia, Serbia and Kosovo, and also the Abraham Accords involving plenty of countries like Sudan, Morocco, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Israel, and the United States of America. So he got some of the images of his peace deals that he secured, which, by the way, I want to say the Egypt-Ethiopia one was this year, wasn't it? At the very least, I know India, Rwanda, Israel, Cambodia, and Azerbaijan, those were all in like the last, 5 months? 4 months, 5 months. So he has crushed it. He's already beat his first term. I think he secured like 2 major peace deals, including the Abraham Accords, which technically you're talking really like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 peace deals all wrapped into one. But anyway, so this comes from Vice President J.D. Vance. Today, VP Vance and UK Foreign Secretary Lammy met with officials from Ukraine and other European nations to discuss a route to peace in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. So he is over there, and matter of fact, Democrats were trying to say that he was going on vacation. He's going to go on vacation and do nothing when he was over there, but no, actually he's working. Turns out he's working. Let's see. The United Kingdom is turning into an Islamic state with nuclear weapons. They could soon be a serious threat to us in America. Holy shit, dude. That's base as fuck. Just a little bit. That's just a little bit. Let's see. Europeans and Ukrainians will do everything in their power to keep the conflict going. Yeah, I think so. We voted for you and the president to end this money laundering grift to Ukraine. Absolutely. I believe it is a money laundering grift. American taxpayers are broke, and we want nothing to do with this mess. Yep. Just consumer debt alone. The average American, if you add up everything, your credit card debt, mortgage debt, auto loan debt, student debt, all the debts put together, it totals it's like $34 trillion in total that all of America has in total debt, not including the federal government. The $37 trillion deficit, that's different. In the American public's debt, if you divided that up amongst all American men, women, and children, every single American from age 0 up to 123 or whatever, each of us owes $100,000 in just personal debt. And then if you add the federal deficit, now you got another $110,000. So in total, per American, we owe $210,000 in debt. You think we're going to get out of that? I don't think so. I don't think that's happening. So, but yeah. I mean, we totally have plenty of money to send over to Ukraine. $80 billion? Oh, no problem, man. Yeah. We have an infinite amount of money. Because, money just doesn't fucking matter anymore. When you got the world's reserve currency, when you got the petrodollar, all you got to do is just add a zero, bro. Just put a zero at the end. See, look at that. Just like that. Boom. We just 10x our economy. Just like that. All right. So this isn't the only thing happening with regard to discussions between Russia and Ukraine. Actually, President Trump, he announced today that he is going to be meeting with Vladimir Putin. We're going to get to that in a minute. So this is from Tammy Bruce. Thank you, President Trump. So grateful for POTUS's trust in nominating me as the Deputy Representative of the U.S. at the United Nations. I've been honored to serve as the State Department spokesperson, and now I'm blessed that in the next few weeks, my commitment to advancing America First leadership and values continues on the global stage in this new post. Onward! So this is from Donald J. Trump's True Social account, assuming that he posted this today. I really wish they would timestamp it, but they don't. But anyway, I am pleased to announce that I am nominating Tammy Bruce, a great patriot, television personality, and best-selling author, as our next Deputy Representative of the United States to the United Nations, with the rank of Ambassador. Since the beginning of my second term, Tammy has been serving with distinction as spokesperson of the State Department, where she did a fantastic job. Tammy Bruce will represent our country brilliantly at the United Nations. Congratulations, Tammy. Big congrats. That's big news. Definitely worth sharing today. So, yeah, spokeswoman for the State Department. And matter of fact, the deputy spokesman for the State Department, he was giving out a few statements today. And it actually had me wondering, why is he giving statements? Where's Tammy Bruce? Is she like out sick or something? Now it makes sense. He's gearing up for replacing her. I mean, not to say that the deputy spokesman doesn't do anything ever. I mean, the vice president does something. I'm sure the deputy spokesman has his own list of tasks. It's just probably something the public doesn't really pay any attention to. So let's move on. That one we just did. So what I did at the beginning of the episode, I forgot to hit refresh before I started recording. So that's why a few extra bookmarks popped up, and that's what confused the hell out of me. So we can move on to where we were. We got through that one. And that one. And I think we're here now from the Department of State. So that actually works out perfectly now that we were just talking about the Department of State with Tammy Bruce. Make the State Department great again. The Trump administration has now begun the process of reorganizing the State Department in keeping with the United States' current challenges at foreign policy. I think there's a link. Is there not? Yeah, there is. I thought there was. So this is from foreignpolicy.com. And according to foreignpolicy.com, never heard of them. But not to say they're not relevant, I just haven't heard of them. So this Trump State Department reforms are necessary. These changes are a first step toward reorienting the institution for today's geopolitical challenges. Not sure if that's in reference to... Oh, wow, why is that so small? Can I get rid of that? Oh, no, they paywalled it too. Damn it. Oh, my God, man. If I had more time, I could actually click on these and find out if they're paywalled and then move on. But I really don't have time, man. I got a day job. So anyway, I'll read as much as I can. So from August 8th, 2025, we're going to start right over here. In July, the Trump administration enacted the most sweeping reorganization of the U.S. State Department in a generation. And the reaction from the mainstream media was overwhelmingly negative. Well, of course, because they're probably getting rid of DEI and transgender this and then LGBT that. You can't fly the trans gay flag anymore and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, but the State Department was badly in need of reform. The reorganization is the first step toward reinvigorating the department to advance U.S. interests for a more contentious period of geopolitics. Well, yeah, I mean, times are changing. Things are moving along. You know, we're not exactly in the 2000s or in the 90s or earlier anymore. But also, the Trump administration, they're trying to downsize the government, and I couldn't be happier about it. I know it comes at a great cost, and that is jobs. I get it. A lot of layoffs, that's not good for really anybody, but you're not going to get a lot of sympathy from the public when they're trying to downsize the government, because the more they downsize the government, the less we're going to see our national deficit tick up and up. And we really got to stop. We've got to stop it. It's insanity at this point. It's over our GDP at this point. And like I said, probably at least a few times at this point, that we're paying in $920 billion a year into the national deficit. That's just interest. That's it. That's just interest. That's almost 20% of the entirety of the federal budget. We're just paying in interest like a fucking credit card. So all these countries that own our national deficit, they're getting interest payments from us every year. Billions, hundreds of billions of dollars a year forever. And it's only going up and up and up. And each and every American man, woman, and child, we all owe over $100,000 each. That's if the national deficit doesn't move. And Trump raised the ceiling another $5 trillion. So I don't know, man. I'm just throwing my hands up. So if they're going to restructure the State Department and they're going to knock out a ton of jobs during the process of doing so, then fine. Plus, that has me wondering, is that why that the Trump administration is pushing so heavily into AI? Not just because we're doing a race against China, but perhaps because they have discovered that there could be ways that they could wipe out large amounts of the federal government employment force by replacing it with AI to do just menial tasks that everyday administrators are doing. Because we got 5 million people working for the federal government. 5 million. And if AI, I mean, I don't want to see AI replace anybody's jobs. I mean, I think it's terrifying, to be honest with you. So... But I mean, look, if we're going to downsize the government and start rolling back our national deficit, there's really no other... if we don't do that, we're not going to have a country, not financially speaking. Plus, every country we owe money to, if we default on the dollar, what do you think they're going to do? I mean, if something didn't trigger World War III before, that certainly will, without any doubt. Even though I think at that point, they would have had so much interest money paid to them by then, it probably would have wiped out whatever principal that we owed them in the first place. But it doesn't matter. Credit card companies don't give a shit about that. I mean, you could pay them 10 times what your principal was over a 10, 20-year period, and they'll still be screaming for their principal. They're like, it's not about that. It's not about the interest. I mean, it is, but you still owe us the principal. You're not getting out of that. You can't default on that. You can't claim bankruptcy on that. Well, I mean, you can on your credit cards, but not the federal government. But I don't know. You never know. I mean, we do have the biggest military. We got a lot going for us. So for all I know, we might have a bunch of psychopathic nihilists 15, 20 years from now in the government. And they'll say, oh, yeah, well, watch us. We're defaulting on the dollars. Nothing you can do about it. So sit and spin. All right. But anyway, the reorganization is the first step toward reinvigorating the department to advance U.S. interests for a more contentious period of geopolitics. I know I already read that. I just wanted to kind of cover that one more time. So there was a time when the State Department developed and re-implemented U.S. policy for its most important global challenges. The legendary policy planning teams under George Kennan and Paul Nitze, for example, were intellectual powerhouses, often driving the United Nations Cold War strategy. Well, yeah, dude, we're kind of a long way from the Cold War. I mean, if you ask me, and I'm no expert on it, but I kind of question why NATO stayed relevant at all when the Soviet Union fell. I get it. They still had nuclear weapons. I get it. I don't know. I'm just saying, man, the United States shouldn't have to pay into it. Especially if we get the Golden Dome. If we get Trump's Golden Dome, why the fuck would we pay anything toward NATO at that point? Because we already got, we got us. We got us covered. We're good. Not to mention we got 2 oceans separating us from everybody else. But all right. So let's move on here. Oh, actually, that's down in the comments from that post. Now we're going to move on. So we're going to move on to the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs. So the Murillo Ortega regime's massive seizure of all land within 15 kilometers of Nicaragua's borders upends scores of communities and puts at risk the lives and livelihoods of thousands of people across our region. Any American considering to invest in Nicaragua should beware. So if you're looking to invest in Nicaragua for one reason or another, you've been warned. So, yeah, if you have any business dealings at all with that country, I would suggest probably subscribing or following them because they'll probably keep you up to date. All right, so here's the lighthearted one that I was waiting for from the Department of Agriculture. Wishing Smokey Bear. Remember Smokey Bear? Only you can prevent forest fires. A very happy 81st birthday. Thank you for decades of hard work teaching Americans about the importance of wildfire prevention. What was the dog's name? Take a bite out of crime. I can't remember his name. His name wasn't like Ruff or was it? Was it Ruff? I can't remember. And help take a bite out of crime. That was what I grew up with. We had like DARE, the DARE program. That was in full force back in the 90s. Had our DARE t-shirts and our DARE certificates. All right, so anyway, yeah, happy birthday to Smokey. I would play that, but it will probably copyright me. Because these types of videos, they tend to play copyrighted music, which kind of sucks. All right, that's okay, though. So from the Department of State, this week at the State Department, with the State Department spokesperson marking 200 days of America First foreign policy. So I could read all that, or we could just play the video, and we could hear it from them in the State Department themselves. So let's check this out.
Welcome to the Week at
Tammy
State.
Bruce, spokeswoman for the State Department.
This week marks 200 days of America First foreign policy. To begin, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow to set the stage for an actual end to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Another example of our commitment to peace through strength. Secretary Rubio met with the Serbian foreign minister to strengthen economic and security ties and plan a bilateral strategic dialogue later this year. He also held productive discussions with the Swiss president on the importance of a fair and balanced trade relationship that benefits the American people. President Trump demonstrated his well-known commitment to American leadership on the global stage by signing an executive order that created a White House Olympics task force. This will address security and other critical issues ahead of the 2028 Games in Los Angeles, ensuring America delivers a safe and successful Olympic experience for the world.
Trump said that
and finally, the State Department continues its humanitarian leadership, providing $250,000 through the World Food Program to deliver nearly 14,000 family food packs to flood-affected areas in the Philippines, with another $250,000 supporting emergency shelter for over 15,000 people.
Right?
And that was our week. See you next time.
Yep, that was the week. It was a good week in the State Department. Every Friday, they come out with a new one of those. So if you're interested in checking that out every Friday, you can go over there to the State Department's X page, profile, account, whatever you want to call it. So let's increase that a little bit. So from U.S. Central Command, the U.S. Central Command bids farewell to General Kurilla, welcomes new leadership. Not sure if I'm saying his name right. I apologize. I'm terrible. I am just ghastly with names. Kurilla or Korea? I doubt it's Korea. But maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. All right. So anyway, so U.S. Army General Michael Eric Kurilla, the outgoing commander of the U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, relinquished command today to U.S. Navy Admiral Brad Cooper during a change of command ceremony held at the Tampa Convention Center. Hey, that's in my neck of the woods. I live in St. Pete, so I'm right across the bay from Tampa. Prior to assuming command, Admiral Cooper served as deputy commander of CENTCOM. Multiple Department of Defense officials attended the event, as well as distinguished defense leaders from partner nations around the world. General Kurilla assumed command of CENTCOM in April of 2022. During his time as commander, he led U.S. military efforts in the Middle East, maintaining regional stability and security, as well as enduring defeat of ISIS. He led the planning and execution of over 15 major combined combat operations, including Operations Rough Rider and Midnight Hammer. Quote, I know that under the leadership of Admiral Brad Cooper, with the support of the Defense Department and Joint Staff, the counsel and contributions of our allies and partners, and support of our headquarters and component teams, the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, and Guardians of Central Command who serve this nation on the front lines of freedom will always succeed, end quote, said General Kurilla. It has been the honor of my life to have been their commander. Admiral Cooper is a 1989 graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy and holds a master's degree in strategic intelligence from the National Intelligence University. As the commander of CENTCOM, Admiral Cooper will have oversight of all U.S. military missions throughout the 21-country area of responsibility, which includes the Middle East and Central Asia. Quote, the U.S. Central Command and the entire Joint Force have performed exceptionally well under the leadership of General Kurilla, helping to bolster partnerships, increase lethality of U.S. forces, and defend Americans and civilians abroad, end quote, said Admiral Cooper. Quote, I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to lead America's sons and daughters as we support the important mission of enhancing regional security and stability in the Central Command region. All right. Big old change up happening. I mean, he wasn't in charge of CENTCOM for too long. I mean, 3 years. I don't know historically what the average time frame might be. Maybe it's usually with each administration changeover, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, there you have it. And that convention center, man, that ain't cheap. That's expensive. But hopefully they give him a military discount. You know what I'm saying? All right, so from Homeland Security, once again, man, they're on fire today. They're busy. A lot of posts today on Homeland Security and Department of State, so on. So countless innocent Americans have lost their lives. They've suffered horrific violence and endured unspeakable trauma at the hands of dangerous criminals who should have been swiftly removed from our communities. Make no mistake, sanctuary politicians have blood on their hands. So this is from Fox and Friends Weekend from this morning.
Secretary Noem is absolutely right. We've been going after the worst of the worst, MS-13 gang members, child abusers, rapists, murderers, and we are lodging detainers in those detention facilities so that when these people are freed, that ICE can grab them and they can be deported. Unfortunately, under J.B. Pritzker's leadership,
get them out of here.
These murderers, rapists, and otherwise depraved individuals are going free and are being released onto Illinois' streets, and they go on to commit those crimes again. It's a revolving door of justice. If these weren't sanctuary cities, we could just be arresting them and deporting them. I mean, Griff, we talked about just last week out of New Jersey, under Governor Murphy's sanctuary city laws, there's an 11-year-old girl and her mother. They were killed by a criminal illegal alien who was drunk driving. He had not one, but 2 DUIs just this year alone. And if it weren't for these sanctuary city policies, this young woman, this child, and her mother would be alive today. These sanctuary city politicians, whether it be J.B. Pritzker, Governor Murphy, Karen Bass, or Gavin Newsom, they have blood on their hands.
Yep, and they couldn't give a shit less. They could not give a shit less. They do not care. If you try to confront them with that, you'll get nothing but crickets, them looking the other way, and they'll just try to hop into some black SUV and get out of there as fast as possible. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. All they care is power. There's no truth but power. They're a bunch of fascists. They keep calling the right-wingers, the Republicans, the conservatives fascists. No, it is they who's the fascist. Remember what the Democrats accuse the other side of doing, they're already guilty of. I mean, they've proven that over and over and over and over again. I mean, hell, it goes all the way back to the beginning, man. Like, who was the first Democratic president? Wasn't that Andrew Jackson, the Trail of Tears president? And who? Abraham Lincoln. I saw, I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was Mark Dice or who it might have been. Somebody was out in California. They were asking people on the street, which political party was Abraham Lincoln a member of? It was the Democrats. He was the Democrat. Of course he was a Democrat because he freed the slaves, so he had to be a Democrat. No. First Republican. I mean, hell, back in the 1930s, maybe even in the 1940s, it was 95% of black Americans voted Republican until they got snatched up by the Democratic Party during the Great Migration, during the Depression, if I'm not mistaken. And, the Democrats, they got all ass hurt because they lost the ability for them to keep their slaves in the South, because back once upon a time, the Democrats were in the South, Southern Democrats, Jim Crow. Of course, they want to try to change history and make it sound like the Republicans are the party of Jim Crow. Nope. No. It was the Democrats. And they got all pissed off because they lost their slaves, so they had to form the Ku Klux Klan, which was all the Democrats. As usual. Read a fucking book. All right. Anyway, I'll step off my soapbox, and let's go on to J.D. Vance, next president, 2028. It's not a government account, but I've seen a few posts come through from this account, and, they drop some info from time to time. So Republicans are done playing defense. Big blue states gerrymander and count illegals to lock in power. We're finally fighting back, and we're going just as hard. The only way to win is to redistrict as aggressively as they do. Yeah, I mean, that's what Republicans need. They need their fucking balls. They've got to fight fire with fire. Democrats are not going to they're not going to back off. They're not going to calm down. They're only going to keep doubling down. And unfortunately, they're quite effective once they've set their mind to something, and they'll smash, they'll pillage, they'll loot, they'll riot, they'll do whatever it takes to try to forward whatever it is that they're trying to push. And I'm not saying that Republicans should be looting and right. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that we just got to organize a little better. And I mean, they got to find their guts. The Republicans, especially the ones in Congress, they need to quit playing stupid fucking games and acting like speed bumps for Democrats. It's really frustrating, man. All right.
If California has crazy gerrymanders, Illinois has crazy gerrymanders, New York has crazy gerrymanders, what it does is it actually suppresses the will of the people in states like Indiana. And the other thing that we talked about, and I didn't even realize this, Maria, until a couple of years ago, that for apportioning representatives, you actually count illegal aliens. That's ridiculously unfair, and the only real way to fight back against it is for us to redistrict in some ways as aggressively as these hard blue states have done.
Yep. Congress members, I don't know if you knew that or not, but yes, they absolutely count illegal immigrants when it comes to members of Congress. And it's about 700,000 people per member of Congress, which is why they started sanctuary cities. It was all part of the plan. They did the sanctuary states 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. And then when Biden got in, the floodgates opened and millions poured into the country, and they funneled into all these blue states so they could try to get more congressional seats in the House. And that's how the game works, unfortunately. So, yeah, it would be really nice to close that up. All right, so from the FBI's most wanted, hey, man, you want to make some money? You want to make $10 million bucks? This is one way you could do it. The U.S. State Department, they offered a reward, or they're offering a reward of up to $10 million for information leading to the arrest and or conviction of FBI 10 most wanted fugitive Ryan James Wedding, wanted for allegedly running and participating in a transnational drug trafficking operation. He's also wanted for a number of other things, including conspiracy to distribute and possess with intent to distribute controlled substances, conspiracy to export cocaine, continuing criminal enterprise, murder in connection with a continuing criminal enterprise and drug crime, attempt to commit murder in connection with a continuing criminal enterprise and drug crime. Let's see, it's probably just a flyer, but it could be an article. Yeah, it's the flyer. So that's one image of him. Here's another one. There he is. You got $10 million bucks if you can somehow get him back to the States and get him apprehended. So, yeah, you can download the poster and all that. This is on FBI.gov, so it'll be in the description if you want to check it out. Just look for FBI, the link down below, and you will find it right there. So this is from NASA HQ photo. So this is the Crew 10. They just left the International Space Station, and they have splashed down. So the Crew 10, so it's Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peskov, which is this guy, and then NASA astronauts Nicole Ayers here, and then Anne McLean is here, and then JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi on the right. are seen inside their SpaceX Dragon spacecraft after splashing down off the coast of California. More photos. It's on, what is that, Flickr? Yeah, it's on Flickr. That's funny. I don't know why that's funny, but NASA uses Flickr. But yeah, there you go. Splashing down from the International Space Station, traveling 17,000 miles per hour around the Earth at an altitude of, about 400 miles above the Earth's surface. I think that's about how high up the space station is. And yep, they went all the way down into the Pacific Ocean. Look at that, man. Isn't that crazy that the atmosphere can burn up the capsule that much? It's freaking wild. That's friction, baby. When you're traveling 17,000 miles an hour and you start hitting the atmosphere, it's like throwing a stone into water, or it's like jumping off a high dive and doing like a belly flop. You know, like water, it's kind of like a solid if you're hitting it at a fast enough speed. Well, that's probably a terrible analogy, but it's just off the top of my head. But yeah, man, pretty wild. They're okay. They survived. They're happy. They're good to go. Hopefully their muscles aren't too fatigued. I'm not sure how long they spend up in space. Yeah, they're carrying them out on freaking gurneys. So I'm sure they're happy to be home. I know typically they're up there for at least a few months. So I'm sure they've been up there for quite some time. Dude looked like he was standing though, wasn't he? Yeah. See, she's standing up. I'm sure that, could you imagine being up in space for like 3 months and then suddenly being just around being in the middle of just a gravity situation? I don't know, man. That would just be really weird. Because when you're up in the space station, you're basically free falling. I mean, that's really what orbit is. It's constant free falling. So, like imagine going down a roller coaster, like when you're going down and you feel that tickling feeling in your stomach when you feel weightless for a couple of seconds. I mean, that's what they're going through 24/7. Just like constantly falling. All right. So this is from the White House from yesterday. Quote, or here, let me give you the time. Because I always try to grab anything that's less than 24 hours. But every once in a while, by the time I start recording, it will cross over the 24-hour mark. So this was at 6:25 p.m. yesterday. So technically it wasn't 24 hours when I started recording this episode. But anyway. So the quote, the highly anticipated meeting between myself as President of the United States of America and President Vladimir Putin of Russia will take place next Friday, August 15th, 2025, in the great state of Alaska. Further details to follow. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So they tried to have it in the United Arab Emirates, and then there's another location somewhere in Europe, I want to say. And then Putin disagreed with it, but they ended up coming up with an agreement to do it in Alaska. So let's see if that holds up. I'm assuming if JD Vance is meeting in Europe, because he's meeting with Ukrainian officials, assuming that goes well, then that would probably just be all the more reason why Trump and Putin will probably be meeting on Friday. Not sure if we're really going to get to any resolution, because I think Russia, they've lost at least like 20,000 troops, something like that. And I'm sure Ukraine, they've probably lost, I don't even know. It's probably over 10,000, I would assume. But anyway, I mean, the offensive force, the offensive military, they lose. What's the usual average? It's like 3-1, because in offensive force, they tend to take heavier casualties than the defensive force, because, you're on your home turf, which, tends to give you the upper hand. But anyway, so this is from Steve Daines. I took this picture today in the White House of Azerbaijan President Aliyev and Armenian PM Pashinyan minutes after signing the historic peace agreement. Peace through strength, Trump strength. Which is a really cool picture, because both of those countries that these guys are representing, they've basically been at war with each other for 35 years. And now they're standing shoulder to shoulder in the White House with the President Trump's fight painting. It's pretty cool. I like it. I dig it. All right, so this one is from Tom Emmer, GOP Majority Whip. Once again, Tim Walz proves why he is one of the worst governors in the country. Being a self-proclaimed knucklehead doesn't excuse the chaos he has caused with his dangerous far-left agenda. And I'm going to play this clip. It's over on Fox News. It is a banger. I did watch this before I started, because I was just going to read the article, but then I figured the video's only like a minute long. I can't stand Fox News' website. I mean, look at this crap. I know I got it zoomed in a little bit, but this shit's got to go, man. Come on, Fox News. What the fuck you doing? All right, so anyway, I'm going to play it. It's less than a minute, but oh my God, what a minute this is. This is crazy. Check this out. If we can get it to go.
Were you at Tiananmen Square?
Hold on.
Have I been to Tiananmen Square? I have.
Were you at Tiananmen Square?
Have I been to Tiananmen Square? I have.
Were you at Tiananmen Square?
I have been at Tiananmen Square.
When were you there?
Oh, as I recall, January of 1990.
Okay. What is a woman?
What is a woman? It's not a hard question.
What is a woman is the question.
Easy question, dude.
I'm not sure I understand the question here.
He's doing the same thing as, what's her name, Ketanji Brown, the Supreme Court justice, when she was getting confirmed. They asked her the same thing. He's like, what is a woman? Well, I'm not so sure if I can actually answer that in this forum because I'm not sure what you mean. The fuck do you mean? What is a woman? Because he wants to give the politically correct, the Democrat answer, and the answer is a brain dead answer. It's a ridiculous answer. The answer is typically, it's whoever who identifies themselves as a woman. No. Give the definition without using the word woman. Can you do that? No, they can't. They have to say that. They have to say it's anyone who identifies as a woman. That's their definition of what a woman is. It's brain dead lunacy. All right, so here we go.
What do you want me to say? This is
I
hilarious.
want you to say that a woman like me is an adult human female, that men can't become women. You guys are the party of violence, and you're the party erasing women. You don't respect us. You're a bigot. You're a misogynist. You're a sexist. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Woo!
Congresswoman.
Good lady,
Thank
Mr.
back.
Chairman,
It
I would
recognizes
ask
Mr.
unanimous
Ocasio-Cortez
Woo-wee.
from New York.
And he fucking laughs. What a scumbag. He laughs it off. Unbelievable, dude. That like 10-second tirade was like one of the greatest bangers that I've ever heard in like the history of modern politics. That was amazing. You're a bigot. Like, she was just giving Democrats a taste of their own fucking medicine because they call Republicans this shit all the time and they're anything but. They are the party of violence. You don't see right-wing riots. You don't see right-wing protests. You don't see Republicans tearing down dozens of different statues all over the freaking country. You don't see that happening. You don't see us looting freaking Apple stores and Nike stores and burning down Walmarts and all kinds of crazy shit that they do. Did you know in Portland, Oregon, they closed every single Walmart supercenter in the entire city? All of them. They had like 5 of them. Now they have 0 because they kept stealing and looting in Portland, Oregon, which is extremely heavily Democrat. Go figure. Pretty wild, isn't it? All right, so that was a good one. So anyway, so this is from Secretary Brooke Rollins. As POTUS is securing fair trade deals for our American farmers on the world stage, we will see smaller family farms thrive with more market access. Americans want healthy options and they want locally grown products, but it is also a national security threat that we must address head on, and President Trump is all in. At USDA, we are committed to helping our farmers, ranchers, and producers as we make American agriculture great again. Amen. So let's check this out.
In America, we've lost more than 200,000
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
farms in the last 4 or 5 years. Under Joe Biden, the cost of inputs went up 30%. When we left the first Trump White House, we had a trade surplus from America of our American goods across the world.
Damn
After
straight.
4 years of Joe Biden, it went to a $50 billion agriculture trade deficit. That's just
Absolute
ag
shit show.
products. The importance of that is the people that are feeling that the most are those smaller family farms who don't have the access in the market. Once we open that back up, which we're talking about doing, I think you'll begin to see a rebalancing of the system and a really trend toward that more locally produced, smaller family farm. You'll see more people getting into family farms, starting
Love
again. And that's really the solution. And it isn't just about, it is in many ways about the healthy food, and that's all extremely important, but it's also national security. If
cut some
we
regulation,
lose all
too.
of our farms, we now rely on China and other adversaries for our food and our fuel and our fiber, and that's a massive national security problem
Last week,
Oh, it is. It is like crazy. But on the flip side, you do have to admit that China is very heavily reliant on other countries for their food because they can't grow enough food to feed their whole population. So they're very heavily reliant on our corn and soybean crops. So I guess that's got to be said. But yeah, I mean, that would be great. More family farms, more farming. I'm sure there's probably lots of regulations, hopefully, that they're going to start cutting unnecessary regulations. I mean, I'm sure there's some that are important for sure. I mean, as long as they just produce enough that we can keep the prices relatively low, I'm still a little irritated that Trump was boasting about our U.S. beef being accepted in Australia and that we're going to start importing millions or hundreds of millions of dollars worth of beef into Australia and how that's an epic win for America. Yet, I'm sure that Trump hasn't been in the grocery store in a while, but the cost of beef is still really expensive. If you go and you get a T-bone or porterhouse or a filet or a sirloin or whatever, even ground beef, man, even ground beef is like, what is it, like $7-8 a pound now? It is insane. It's crazy. If you get like a 2-pound porterhouse, you're going to spend like at least $50, probably more than that in some cases. It's not cheap. It's still really expensive. And when I think I asked Grok on X, I think I asked why the beef is so expensive right now, and he said it's supply and demand. It's because there's just a relatively smaller supply than there historically has been, and that's why beef is so expensive. I'm not sure if I totally believe that. If we're exporting tons of beef to Australia, for instance, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Just like we found out that the egg shortage didn't exist. There was no egg shortage when we were dealing with the avian flu or the bird flu issue that was going on over the last year or so. They were telling us that we had a massive egg shortage when we actually did not. And supposedly there's investigations that are going to be occurring against the major 4 egg producers because they lied. Because typically the 4 egg producers, they produce about 780 million eggs per month. And during the height of that avian flu outbreak, where they were telling us that we have to jack up your prices up to $12 for a carton of eggs because the supply is so short, they went from 780 million eggs a month all the way down to 760 million eggs. That was the lowest level of eggs that they had in production. So not exactly a sharp drop in the supply of eggs, needless to say. So that was just a little bit appalling. So if you're just now hearing that, I'm sorry I had to be the one to tell you, but we all got swindled as far as the eggs go, and it sounds like we might be getting swindled in the beef industry too. So hopefully they'll try to keep these food producers in check and get them to quit gouging us. I mean, if you want another example, Hershey's came out and admitted a couple of years ago during the supply chain shortage back in 2021, maybe 22, when our inflation was going up like crazy. Hershey's admitted that all of the goods that they require to produce the chocolate they make, the cost of those goods or the supply of those goods didn't go down. They remained basically the same. Like the sugar production was about the same, and all the other materials, the cocoa was about the same. But yet I think they almost doubled the cost of their chocolate. And as far as I know, their answer was, well, everybody else was doing it. You know, we were just going along with just the system. We were going along with what everybody else was doing. Everybody else is jacking up the prices, so why shouldn't we? Yeah, it's appalling, man. We're getting swindled. It's not good. So anyway, I'll move on. Let's see here. Dr. Oz, CMS. I echo Secretary Kennedy's words. We mourn the loss of Officer David Rose and are praying for his family. We stand with the CDC Gov community against this senseless act of violence. This is sad. I did a show yesterday when this was still an active scene, and they didn't say that the officer had lost his life at that point. The only thing that they were revealing was that the shooter was dead, and that there was an officer who was shot, and also a bystander or civilian or some other individual was shot. So that's really sad news. I haven't read anywhere where there was a motive for all of this. When I first heard that it was involving the CDC, the first thing that I thought of, like my mind went to the United Healthcare situation with the CEO. Like the guy had a relative, United Healthcare denied him or whatever, and that's why they targeted him and assassinated him. And it had me wondering, like, was this related to maybe a COVID vaccine situation with a loved one, maybe? I don't know. I'm 100% speculating. I'm not reading that anywhere at all. I'm just saying that's what came to mind. Hopefully that's not what actually ended up happening, but I'm just saying it wouldn't really surprise me if they dug deeper and they found that out and they shared with the public, if they even share that with the public. Wouldn't surprise me if they didn't, but all right, so this is from Secretary Kennedy. We are deeply saddened by the tragic shooting at CDC's Atlanta campus that took the life of Officer David Rose. We stand with his wife and 3 children and the entire CDC family. Oh my God, dude, he had 3 kids. That's horrible. We know how shaken our public health colleagues feel today. No one should face violence while working to protect the health of others. We are actively supporting CDC staff on the ground and across the agency. Public health workers show up every day with purpose, even in moments of grief and uncertainty. We honor their service, we stand with them, and we remain united in our mission to protect and improve the health of everyday Americans. So there's a lot of comments. Yeah, you know, I just based off that top one, I'm going to remain respectful for this officer, and I'm not going to go through the comments. This is X after all, so you can only use your imagination as to how this might be perceived. Not toward the officer. I'm sure he has plenty of condolences down there in the comments, but with regard to the CDC, they're not quite liked with America at the moment. There's a lot of hatred for the CDC out there, needless to say. So let's move on here to the FBI director, Kash Patel. 200 days of the Trump administration from January 20th to present. The FBI has arrested over 1,600 people for violent crimes against children, which include 270 arrests for human trafficking. Way to go, FBI. They have turned around in just about every possible good way that it can. I mean, I don't have any complaints with Kash Patel's leadership so far. He seems to be doing one hell of a banger of a job so far. So that's good to see. It's good to see that the FBI is finally getting to a position where they might start getting trusted again by the public. And this comes from J.D. Vance just 7 hours ago. Our nation's capital has become ridden with out-of-control violent crime thanks to misguided local leadership. President Trump is putting a stop to this lawlessness. This is from Donald J. Trump's Truth Social account. On Monday, a press conference will be held at the White House, which will essentially stop violent crime in Washington, D.C. It has become one of the most dangerous cities anywhere in the world. It will soon be one of the safest. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. He's been saying that a lot lately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I mean, D.C. should be the safest city in the whole country. We have representatives from other countries. We've got diplomats. We have ambassadors. We have world leaders. We have all kinds of people coming here. Not even to mention the tourists. They want to come here. They want to visit the Smithsonian. They want to check out the White House. They want to see what the Capitol building looks like in real life. I mean, they should do it in a place that's nice and safe. Not to say that they should treat D.C. as a tourist attraction exactly. I mean, it's not a freaking theme park, but I mean, the least they can do is make it freaking safe. All right, so this is from the NASA acting administrator, Sean Duffy, just to get the whole thing in there because it's cut off a little bit up there. Oh, well, now it's not. Anyway, Captain Jim Lovell's character and steadfast courage helped our nation reach the moon. He embodied the bold resolve and optimism of both past and future explorers, and we will remember him always. Which, by the way, he passed away on August the 7th, and he was probably most well known for Apollo 13. So we are saddened by the passing of Jim Lovell, commander of Apollo 13 and a 4-time spaceflight veteran. So if you've seen Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks played Jim Lovell. So Lovell's life and work inspired millions. His courage under pressure helped forge our path to the moon and beyond, a journey that continues today. So very sad. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely in the history books, always will be. I mean, if you have any interest in space flight, astronautics, anything space, I'm sure you've heard Jim Lovell's name. I mean, it's up there with all the others. Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and all the others. So it's unfortunate. You know, the world keeps turning, the time just keeps ticking. It's always sad when we lose such an iconic American figure. All right, so Brian Babin says, so this isn't, I'm not going to read this over again, but I'll at least read his response to Trump's post. D.C. has been run into the ground by Democrats for decades. President Trump is about to change that and make our nation's capital safe again. Yes, it has, man. Out in the D.C. bureaucracy, out of all the people who vote, who work for the federal government and live in Washington, D.C., over 90% of them vote Democrat. Go figure. So yeah, it's an extremely blue city. All right, so this is from Congressman Byron Donalds. So he's from my state in Florida. Following the Trump administration's actions, there is a bill on Capitol Hill right now aimed at cracking down on D.C. crime. Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida reintroduced the D.C. Crimes Act. Let's check this out.
Following the Trump administration's actions, there is a bill on Capitol Hill right now aimed at cracking down on D.C. crime. Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida reintroduced the D.C. Crimes Act. Now, that legislation would remove judicial discretion in sentencing youth offenders below the mandatory minimum. It would also scrap part of the Youth Rehabilitation Amendment Act. That allows adults younger than 25 to get reduced sentences and have their records sealed. Finally, the D.C. Council would be prevented from making any new changes to those mandatory minimum sentences.
That is
7 News is also checking in with MPD about their ongoing officer shortage.
Wow, man. So 24 years old and you commit a crime in D.C. and you're considered a youth? What the fuck? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, dude. Yeah, I mean, what I think they should do, maybe not just in D.C., but in pretty much any major city, this would probably be just too effective. That's probably why they wouldn't do this. But if there's a minor that's out after curfew, if the city's dangerous enough, I can't say that I really agree with this because I was a kid once too, but if they rolled the curfew back to 9 p.m. or maybe 10 p.m., let's hit that happy medium. Because when I was a kid in the 90s, early 2000s, curfews for minors were 11 o'clock at night, at least where I lived at the time. But if you roll it back to, let's say, 10 o'clock and your minor child is out committing crimes and they get arrested, well, you, the parent, you're not adequately supervising them, clearly. So you should be charged as an accomplice of the crime in which they're committing. So if they commit armed robbery, guess what? You're getting busted for armed robbery because you're the parent. You're fully responsible for them. You're accountable for them because they're your child. So I don't know. If you agree with that, let me know in the comments. It was just kind of an offhand thought, but I think that would maybe light a fire underneath these parents' asses to keep their children at home and not let them go out and run wild because you might be going to jail too. All right, so let's move on to Secretary Brooke Rollins. A big win for Florida citrus. Nearly 2/3 of your breakfast orange juice in the U.S. is imported from foreign countries. That ends now. We are bringing back domestic production of OJ stronger than ever before. Proud to stand with Dr. Macari, FDA, on this America First fix that cuts red tape, revives domestic production, and puts more U.S. oranges back in American breakfast glasses. This is the beginning of America's return to domestic orange dominance. I do not agree with her. I don't. I live in Florida. I've lived here for 20 years, and I just so happened to move here during the exact same year where something called citrus greening broke out in Florida. And as of today, in 2025, citrus greening has destroyed 90% of Florida's orange citrus industry. 90%. So we've only got a tenth of what we had in 2005. So this whole policy change, it's not gonna fix citrus greening. And we've got universities here. I think it's USF. I think they've been working on trying to combat citrus greening, trying to come up with innovative solutions to get rid of it. I think maybe Florida State. There's a couple of them. There's a couple of universities that have been working on this for basically 20 years, trying to get rid of citrus greening, and they're not getting rid of it. So if you can somehow allow that to get fixed, then yeah, let's get oranges back. I remember once upon a time, I used to be able to buy a whole bag of oranges for like $1.50. No joke. In the 2000s, probably up till like maybe 2010 or something like that. But right now in the grocery store, Publix, for example, it's been a while since I've been in Publix. I shop Aldi because, I don't make very much money, so I have to shop at Aldi. But in Publix, they were selling individual oranges for $1.75 per orange in Florida, of all places. It's because we don't have the orange production that we once had. It would be nice to get that back again. So anyway, if you're from Florida, if you live in Florida, that you might be interested to see this. I mean, I just had to give my 2 cents and push back against at least the orange production side of it. Even though what they're saying, I'm sure, is a good thing. They've got good intentions. However, the reason that we're importing so many oranges from Brazil and South Africa and wherever else we're getting them from is because of that reason, because we have to. Because we still have a demand for oranges and orange juice, but we don't have the supply, not at least in Florida. We do have a lot of oranges that come out of California, thankfully, at least for now. But even that's probably in decline because of population growth historically, even though I don't know if California's population is still increasing. But yeah, so they replaced a lot of those orange groves with neighborhoods and whatnot. But anyway,
I am Marty McCary, FDA Commissioner, here with Secretary Rawlings of the USDA. And we are holding oranges today to tell you about something that's been going on and some new changes that we're making. It turns out that the sugar level naturally in a Florida orange has been going down ever so slightly. Some would say that's a good thing, but because of an old 1963 FDA regulation, millions of Florida oranges cannot be used for orange juice. So today we are taking action to stop that and to change the regulation so that Florida oranges can be used and we don't have to import millions of oranges from Brazil and other countries to make orange juice.
Well, that's right. And here we are at the farmers market, the first great American farmers market, actually holding oranges that came from right behind us to make this amazing announcement. I know I was in the Oval Office with the president. This came up. He said, Brooke, we've got to fix this right away. I called my friend Marty McCary within minutes, which is how we move in Trump world.
McCary. I thought it was Macquarie.
He got it fixed. So God bless you for that.
I'm sorry.
This is such a big win for all of our citrus farmers, especially those that over the last few years, because of greening and other reasons, have really struggled. So
she said it.
I think a really great step
forward.
She
did say citrus greening.
The citrus industry in Florida and across our great country.
Yeah, but lady, you got to get rid of citrus greening though. It's contagious. It gets caught up in the air, man. Citrus greening spreads from tree to tree. It spreads from crop to crop, and that's why 90% of the citrus industry got destroyed. I get that you can. They came up with ways, although they're not as effective as they thought they'd be, of isolating trees that they have found to be infected with citrus greening. It's still not. There's still no like ironclad way to isolate it though.
Make sure that our Americans have great American oranges in their orange juice.
That's right. This is America First, getting rid of burdensome regulation that hurts American businesses and doing common sense reform.
Yep. Let America be free again.
That's what this administration is all about, and that's why we're doing this here today.
All about freedom.
That's right. Thank you.
Kyle Story here, fourth generation Florida citrus grower.
Kevin Doppelman, president of Florida Citrus Mutual. Today, I'm out here in one of our Heller Brothers citrus groves, home to a proud
and they avoided citrus greening somehow.
Citrus growing family right here in Florida.
To Secretary Rawlings, the Trump administration, Florida's congressional delegation, and everyone else that helped to bring Florida's orange juice brick standard into the 21st century, thank you.
The support of this administration, our legislative partners, and the USDA, especially around the modernization of the brick standard, has helped give us the momentum we need to move forward. Thank you for standing with us.
All right, well, there you have it. And we'll see what comes of that. Not so sure. I don't know, man. I hope that it works. I would love nothing more than to see our citrus industry return with just absolutely booming. That would be music to my ears because I love oranges. I drink orange juice every day. I have for years and years. I know it's not particularly good for you. I know some people might push back and they'll say, orange juice, it's not as good for you as you think it is. And a lot of the orange juice is produced because it's a byproduct of other things that they do with oranges and yada, yada. But anyway, yeah, regardless, it would be good to have a citrus industry return to the way that it was back in the mid-2000s. That'd be awesome for the state of Florida. So this was actually from a while ago. Honestly, it wasn't really my intention to leave this bookmark up here, but I've already got it on screen, so I might as well read it. So this is from July 21st, and I forgot that this happened, and the reason why I bookmarked this was to check and see if there was any progress with this. So Representative Anna Paulina Luna, she's my rep in Congress, as I believe I said earlier in this episode. So I have formally referred Jerome Powell to the DOJ for criminal investigation. Chairman Powell knowingly misled both Congress and executive branch officials about the true nature of a taxpayer-funded project. Let's see. Lying under oath is a serious offense, especially from someone tasked with overseeing our monetary system and public trust. And I believe that this is in regard to the renovation of the Federal Reserve, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's just the image. Yeah, that's just the image. So I did check, and I didn't see... Here, let me go to this one. I didn't see any movement with that, but I didn't ask Grok. So let's see here. Let me just copy it. Criminal investigation. Let's take a look and see what Grok says, at least. As of the latest, Napoleon Luna formally referred Jerome Powell to the Department of Justice on July 19th for a potential criminal investigation regarding alleged perjury and false statements. The referral accuses Powell of lying under oath during his June 25th testimony before the Senate Banking Committee about a $2.5 billion renovation of the Federal Reserve's Eccles building. Specifically, Luna claims Powell misrepresented the inclusion of luxury features and denied a prior renovation from 1999 to 2003, which he says is contradicted by official documents. The referral cites potential violations of the codes, and there's no confirmed information from the DOJ indicating that a formal criminal investigation has been opened. There probably won't be. But who knows if Pam Bondi, if she sticks to everything that she's got on her plate, and we see the conclusions with the Russia hoax, the Epstein files, and everything else that she's got going on right now, maybe we will see this happen. I hope we do, because there has to be accountability for everybody. We got to make an example out of all these politicians who are lying under oath, because if they don't have any accountability and no consequences of their actions, then they're just not going to stop. They're just going to keep doing this. And I'm getting freaking sick of it. I know we all are. We're all getting sick of them just constantly lying under oath. It's frustrating as all hell. So, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But that was at least a few weeks ago, and there really hasn't been any movement on that, which, I mean, of course, it is the federal government. It moves extremely slowly. But as I've said before, the Federal Reserve, the inside, it should be as boring as fucking possible. There should be nothing but white walls, plain white polished floors. It should look absolutely as depressing as an office building could possibly look, as much as you could possibly imagine. No fancy paintings, no Hunter Biden $1 million fine art bullshit that they've got God knows where in that building. Nothing. Just as boring as you could possibly get. It has to be a miserable, soul-sucking place to walk into. That's what I think the Federal Reserve should look like. And I don't know. If you disagree with me, just let me know in the comments. But I have a feeling that most people might agree with me on that. But so I think is that all I got? Yep, that is all I got. So let me see. I don't think there's anything else that I got. Nope. I think that's a wrap. I think we're good. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. It's a new channel. I was putting these episodes on my older channel, but Google recommended that I start a new channel because all the content on my original channel was just like a lot of personal uploads and stuff, and there was not really any consistency with politics or anything like that. So anyway, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back with another one most likely tomorrow, but 100% on Monday, as I'll do this Monday through Friday every evening. So thanks a lot for watching, and God bless America.